Right. He said a few good stories from here.
Save it when Rabbi Lansky was
Save for him. Okay, fine. What are you doing with all the videos? What are you doing with the videos?
You have to ask.
Ask him what he's doing. Okay.
Where's mine? You called him? He knows it.
Mami?
Yeah?
Amud Chet.
He doesn't do it.
Nachtum B'Siyam HaMaimer.
Oh, okay.
Kitzer. Oh, we did the Kitzer already. We'll start the new Maimer. Fine.
Yeah, maybe just a quick
Review.
synopsis of...
The Kitzer, we're speaking about the idea, you're speaking of the advantage of Kesed, that it's beyond any limitations, beyond any certain description, as opposed to all the other Keiches HaNefesh, and the same thing, Sfis L'mayla, where they're movable, they're defined, they're Erbekli, they come according to the Keli, they become according to the Keli, they change accordingly. That's all because they're movable be'etzem, they're initially limited, and therefore there's also details, as everything, every faculty, every Keich a person has a description what it is all about, and it has also details, just like in emotions and in intellect. You have the details of the intellect, what builds it up. There's a Svara Lakana, Svara Machriya. There's a reasoning for this, and a reasoning for that. Everything comes with details, and then you come with a general picture. Same thing with emotions. It could be the more advanced emotions has two sides to it. There's a reason to like it and to not unlike it. That's why you like it only a certain amount, not too much, right? Like it says in the Gemara, yeah. So Akoponim, so you have these limitations as opposed to Ratzon, which is unlimited, and that he says that's the difference in Teiro mitzvahs. Teira is Chochmah, therefore there's different ways of understanding Teira. Also, the obligation of learning Teira, not everyone is the same. As opposed to mitzvahs, everyone has the same chiyuv in mitzvahs. Mitzvahs gufa, there's a part of mitzvahs which there's also separate, there's different levels. And even mitzvahs, each mitzvah is a different level, different hamshocha, different connection with the Eibishter, different effect on the person. That's the kavanah pratis of the mitzvah, as opposed to the kavanah klolis. All the mitzvahs are equal, doing ratzon aliyah. And he said this is why it says by all the mitzvahs ani avaya, to tell us that really there's both things in the mitzvahs. There's a avaya sheba mitzvah, then there's also the ani, the connection with the Eibishter. That when I'm doing the mitzvah, the underlining thing is the Eibishter the said I should do it. Besides all advantages, besides all elevations, the tzar of sabriyas, there's the ultimate tzir, if we could even call it, is ichtuva the Eibishter will, and therefore alti yeshiv shekel mitzvah shel teir, even though there's kal shebekal chmur shebechamuras, but in the essence, the nekuda from the mitzvah, the mitzvah mitzvah, the connection with the beirei, with the mitzvah, that all mitzvahs are equal. That's the idea of rotzen shebe mitzvahs. When we start speaking about the advantages, the gain, the kavanos of mitzvahs, that there could be differences. That's ani avaya, that really everything is coming from ani. Even the avaya is also coming from ani. So that's the mitzvahs, the etzem of the mitzvahs, and then there's the chilukim of the mitzvahs. Right. So this is the next mime we're starting. The chlal, the hemshech, I said before, the hemshech betzim, the Rashab wrote it as a one long thing. Later he made keplach and he made kitzurim, which is really separate. Fine. 8 Erika Salmo.
It's in a separate book, no?
Yeah, right.
Wait, is it, so like right now we're starting Oita Erika Salmo, that wasn't there, like at Chila?
Chila, he wrote all hemshech, it seems like one long bulk. And later,
put in
when he said it in the installments. You'll see later, you'll see next time, I think it is, that he said it twice, which means he said it in 2 shots. But there was one kepler on one end. You'll see the next time, I think it is. We don't have it here. Okay, 8 Erika Salmo, Neite Shemaim Kayiri. Literally, this pasuk is a lot of chassidus on this pasuk. The Eibishter, so to speak, wrapped himself around with light like a cover, like a cloth. And Neite Shemaim, he spread out the heavens, Kayiriya, like a yiriya, it literally means a forehang, a curtain. Which could mean also vertical, how do you say it? Yeah? It could be, okay. The Eibishter is both idea of the Eibishter covering himself, whether it's through light, literally air, or it's Shemaim. So there's 2 concepts. There's the Eibishter is covering himself off of air, which when you hear the words, it doesn't sound right, because seemingly Eir is expression. If I care, the Eibushter is revealing himself, not covering himself. Here it says Eir Kasalma. Eir is a covering on the Eibushter. Get it? Then there's Neiter. I don't know. I hope we get it. Yeah. Then there's Neiter Shemaim Kayiriyo. There's a different concept which seems like it's total helim. But total love and Shaykhis Inyon the Eir Eir the Neiter Shemaim Zelazeh. He says it one after another. Seemingly there is a connection. Fine. To understand this is like the passport of the Maimer. This is the entry of the Maimer. In order we should be able to know. There's two ways to explain that the Dibra Maschels B'chlal. Why do they have Dibra Maschels in Amorim? So it says it's called the passport from the Maimer. So there's two explanations why you need a passport, or because we should know what we're talking about. Imagine all the Amorim would be called the Hovinin Eir Sof. The Hovinin Eir Sof number Kuf Mem Dalet. The Hovinin Eir Sof. So it'll be very hard to articulate what you're talking about. So they made a passport. Should be easy to. That's one way. Another way to explain a passport is just with a passport you can get inside. Without that you can't go there. It's like no permission. Same thing. In order to have a right to start saying all these beautiful Chassidus, there has to be an entry. It has to have a Yisaid. It's not posik. It's not stam the luft. It has a Yisaid Musa that's machriach me, or that's the emek of this posik. This posik is really gaining me and giving me and calling me to this emek. That's why always Kamishikosu, Shenemar. It's not just that. This is the reason why we find that people, you can tell them a whole explanation, and then you tell them, stating posik, this is this posik, then they understand it. So it looks funny sometimes. The explanation you didn't understand, and the posik mitamol you understand it. But the case, because really it comes from the posik. The shadish adav, was ad kana the drasha. Lahovin zeish lahagdim ashen is borlel. Continuation before he says, "Ba'moshel the keiches hanefesh boy mebchinas pnimis before yaguf." The keiches hanefesh come in an eternal way according to what the ivorim could handle. Each limb, according to what it is, that's the keich, the power from the nefesh that's going to come there. Shekol keich yeshli klimi yuchedes has a separate keli. Sha'keich mislabish enclosed itself, misgala reveals itself, misachad becomes one. That the beginning is it reveals itself, mele it captures the keli, so to speak, and then till it becomes one with it, and then it has even a greater impact. Like you explained before about, I don't know if we explained here, but there's the idea of when a person uses his me'ach for a while, so not only that it has an effect on the brain, it's the brain itself starts becoming me'ach, starts becoming seichel. Just like he has a brain in his head, so too automatically he starts getting things. Since it's revealed and it's coming according to the keli, so according to the limbs, that's how the keiches are going to be revealed. That's how they're going to affect. The same thing we understand about the Eibishter. The Eibishter doesn't have a Dmus Aguf and not a Guf. When you read this, we're going to soon see in the brackets, he's going to go into this Lashon. People say Ani Maimin, I believe they say over there, so the question is, if the Eibishter doesn't have a Dmus Aguf, for sure he doesn't have a Guf. What do you have to say V'lei Guf? So we're going to soon see later what it means. Fine. We'll soon see. It says in the pasuk that it says a pasuk that the Eibishter does have, there is a Demus Kemari Odom Olov, and like we know that the Eibishter made the person down here Kigavno de Leilo. Everything we have down here is coming from the Eibishter. If we have Chochmah here, the ultimate idea of Chochmah is by the Eibishter, and here is an expression of the Eibishter's Chochmah. Here is an expression of the Eibishter's Chesed. So really, the ultimate Tzir is L'mayla. So although we say in Musa Guf Alei Guf, still it says Al Musa Kisi D'Mus K'mari Odom Olov She'ein Zeh B'B'chinas Atzmus and Sof Baruch Hu. We're not speaking about the essence of the Eibishter there. We'll skip the brackets for a moment. Ki'im Be'eris V'Galuyim De'in Sof She'nim Shubas Asiris D'Atzilis. When the Eibishter comes down to Atzilis, over there you have the idea of Guf. The Mashom, we'll go back to the brackets. The Mashom, ainly Dmus, when we say that Eibush doesn't have a Dmus Aguvlei Guf, Ha'ikr Koi al Pchinas Atzmus in Sof Shalamayla Matzilis. Atzmus in Sof Shalamayla Matzilis. Over there you can't say Dmus Aguvlei Guf. The Zawi Dmus Aguf V'Guf. This is the double Lashon. Not only does he not have a Dmus Aguf, he doesn't even have a Guf. Hiksh B'Shalo, the Shalo asks, like we know the Alter Rebbe was a Shaloyid. Before he came to the Maggid, he was called a Shaloyid because everything he did according to the Shalo. Later, it says a Lashon that he learned, so to speak. The Frierdiker Rebbe says a Lashon Asicha. People can sagen what Shaykh to say, what Malakarev and Ma v'chulu. When he get to the Shalo, what he brought into Chassidus. Akoponim. So here he brings a piece of the Shalo. Me'acher she'en li d'mus haguf. Me'mele ein li guf. U'matzorach le'me ein li guf. Why does it's the Lashon Rambam before? Why did he say Eilid Musa Guf Alei Guf? If he doesn't have a Musa Guf, even the image of a Guf, for sure he doesn't have a body mamish. So why do you have to add and say Eilid Guf? Is it the Zuva in Tzarech Leimer Zuch? What is the meaning? So this is the Shalo asks. It's explained the reason for the explanation for this. The Musa Gufu Pchinas Biyah Shenikr Kid Museinu. The Gufu Pchinas Atzilus. The Musa Guf, Tzalmenu Kid Museinu, so with the Eibishter, Nas Adam Tzalmenu Kid Museinu, what's Tzalmenu is going on Atzilus, and Kid Museinu is going on Biyah, and that's what we're saying, that L'maylam Atzilus, he doesn't have the Musa Guf, he doesn't have the articulations and the definitions, the way it's in Biyah, and he doesn't even have the way it's in Atzilus, that's the Guf. V'kama Gufin Tkinas Lein, Shekol Zein Shaykh B'atzpsen Sof, by Atzpsen Sof, Pshit Zein Sof is not Shaykh, not the Musa Guf, and not even Guf. Not even Biyah, not in Atzilus. In a few words, just what does it mean that we call Biyah Kid Museinu and Atzilus Betzalmeinu? In just in a nutshell, the marshal generally in Chassidus, the dogma Chassidus, really it brings over here from Cohen Zeir, say Paschaliyov, Kama Gufin Tkinas Lein, and then there's the Kama Gufin Tkinas Lein is what does it say before the Kama Gufin Tkinas Lein? We say this kriyu gufin lagabe levushin l'mechasin alein. So there's levushin and then there's gufin. Levushin, says Chassidus, is biyah, and atzilus is gufin. In other words, if we want to divide atzilus and biyah, nefesh odom, we'll say atzilus is the keiches hanefesh, eser keiches, chochma bin edah, chabat chagas nehim, and biyah is like machshava dibur mais. What does it mean? Why do I say it like that? Why is this? What's Keiches HaNefesh? Keiches HaNefesh, is it an expression of me or it's hiding me? So on one hand I could say it's expression. When you say this person is smart, or this person is kind, this person is a good person, this person is active, he has the ambition, he knows how to bring things, make things happen, that's telling me about the person. He has these energy, these powers. That's an expression of the person. That's him. When we're speaking in levushim, a person thinks about something. He could think about something, but not necessarily it's him. Or he could speak about something. It's not necessarily he lives it. Not necessarily this is his emotion. Not necessarily this is his intellect. And of course, when he does something, he could do something just because he's told, but not that he has a life. He's living it. That's basically the chilik of a tzaddik and a beinani. The beinani is the machshava dibur ma'aseh he gives away to the Eibishter. What's happening with his emotions and with his intellect, not necessarily is you have the hanocha pshuta of alakus b'pshitis. Not necessarily his emotions is adveikus alakus and avas Yisrael. Rashab Dibra Maisa, that he gives over to the Eibishter. Peil Mamish, that's what he has a ability to rule over. That he gives over to the Eibishter. That's the taich chilik of levushin, even though it's a part of the person, but it's not the person. It doesn't tell me who he is. That's why sometimes in Chassidus it's called Chochma. You have the Shem HaKinui, and then it's the Shem HaTeyar. So what's that Shem HaKinui of Chochmah? That he has a lot of Chochmah in his head. He thought a lot of ideas. He heard a lot of ideas. In the Lashon Chassidus, he has Yesh li Chochmah b'am tachte. It's like he's running around at the showcase and he has a lot of Chochmah in it. As I state the Lashon Chassidus. He knows, he gathered knowledge. That's Shem HaKinui of Chochmah, Shem HaPuli. He was Peilin of Chochmah. But at Alain, if he will sit down to something, will he be able to figure it out, will have something to say, will he on his own, his way of thinking, that Shem HaTeya, that's his Keach HaChochmah. At Alain Tracht. It's not his thinking, it's not a video machine, he's not a, at Alain Tracht. It's his own mind. That's the type Shem HaTeya of Chochmah. Then the Shem HaTeya, fine. So this is a Nefesh Adam is saying this is his expression, so to speak. This is him here. Mashenkin Machshava is really a klol, which is only in order to relate to others. Sometimes he'll be the other. Machshava is he should get to know what's happening in his Seichel Amidis. And Dibur is the Zulas. That's what Brie. Therefore we say Brie is Bottle Mamish because he's really getting it. But he's soft, he's a Zulas. So it's a Zulas feeling the ultimate truth. Getting back in Avedis in Avona a bitl b'mitzid.
Well, the thinking is also mitzad the dibur in order to come to dibur, right?
It says yefshel machshav bli dibur, but essentially machshav doesn't have to be because I want to say it over. I can think it because I enjoy thinking, and that's its simuyin. Not necessarily if I'm going to speak. Although Chassidus,
you don't have to speak.
Right.
It's true.
But it's
not
I'm all straight to
but the purpose, the ultimate purpose of machshava
to get to
is in order to.
It's a very strong point. It's a very good point you bring up because it could answer a lot of questions. Fine, whatever. It's a strong point because in the Alter Rebbe Tanya Perkov is mashma that the whole when the machshava start, when I start thinking how to bring it out to Peil Mamish, Mashenke the etzem havonas inyan. Even though I'm using the machshava, it's inevitable. That's why not considered machshava. That okay. Let's get. Yes,
depends on your blessing.
What I'll think.
Not everything you think you want to do. Some things you just think that you don't want to do.
Right. I mean,
the
two levels of machshava.
The idea over here is to say that the keches are they're part of the person. Mashenkin the levushim of machshava dibur ma'isa, which is represented by the Eilemis. Bia. This is chutz,
right? It's only a way of to let someone else know about it. In other words, to get someone else into it. Lashon Chassidus, machshava is megale
to reveal or express itself to the other worlds, right. to the creation.
And that's what they are. They are otherness. As megale, the Lashon Chassidus about machshava is he's megale helam atzmi legabe atzmi. To get to know what's happening within my nefesh, I have to have this lavush, these asias of machshava in order to get into it. So the asias let me crawl into my nefesh, get to know what's happening. So I can't live without machshava. Without I won't know that's machshava meshitetes tamid. It's a reflection of the nefesh, but it's a reflection of the nefesh. Why does a person know what's happening in his machshava? How does he get his machshava? If machshava is reflecting nefesh, which nefesh is the chodesh leiber to the person, how could he live it? How could he get these messages of machshava? So Chassidus is lashon. This is sort of beer b'fnei atzmei. Even the aces, but why another person doesn't know and I could know? Has a shayla practice in Chassidus? Because if I'm getting to know nefesh, and that's something I couldn't get to know, so why is it that when I have put this lavush, so to speak, it's a tzimtzum, it's condensing, it's letting it come to ace, it's true, it's a aber but as and therefore another person doesn't hear what I'm thinking because it's private, it's personal, it's so to speak, it's such a expression which someone else cannot handle. So why I get it, the Lashon Chassidus is Bal Adam Korev Eitzel Atzmi. As I state the Lashon. Bal, it's me. He's Medayik. The Lashon Adam Korev Eitzel Atzmi. And then he starts Medayik why a brother doesn't know it. They're both Eitzem Echad. But it's a Deimeh to the person himself. In other words, even though the Machshava is really going out of myself, it's not far out. It's really his own experience is what's coming through. But it's experiencing in other words, like this: if we would be able to crawl into our Keich HaChochmah the way it is mitzad hanefesh, we would all be geniuses. There's no levushim, there's no limitations. It's bleak vul. All limitations we have in our way of thinking is because we're going through a certain funnel. Basically. So what does it come into in Avonis Ayin and that Ne'elim Islamayla? We're seeing the difference. Of course, there's the difference of Kechas and Lavushi, but how does it mean? How does it translate in Chod Chatoy, Chod Yeloah? It the ultimate of the truth of the Eibishter is revealed, or only what a Zulas could get from the Eibishter. So we say Elam is Biyah, only realizes Das Tachten, so they know there's Eibishter, they're convinced, they're certain there's Eibishter, but they don't know who he is. They're batuach that there has to be a maker, but they're bottled because of that. It takes them through and through, but they're still here. So there's whom that gets to know this reality. Mashenkin in Atzilis is the pshat. There's a zulas hamargish. There's someone else feeling this truth. It's the Eibishter himself. Says the Chochmah is the head, the Eibishter's revelation of the idea of Hula Vadi Vein Zelosei. That is Chochmah Atzilis. Not someone else got to know this idea. I figured out how the Eibishter is Hula Vadi Vein Zelosei, which that will be not getting. Says how much will work to know that the world is dependent on the Eibishter, and it can't exist without the Eibishter. We'll be convinced, but we'll never get it the way it really is. That's why it's called a demus. It's not the way it is. It's the way we take it. It's the way it's coming to Azulas, to Elamis. That's the tension to Lavush. Lavush and Tkinas Lane. The Lavush. It has to translate. That's the musag. It's not the way the Eibishter is. Vashenkin alakise. There's a goof. Even over here, you use the lotion. The musag. There's the as the Eibishter can make sure who is revealed, not the amitis from Hulavad Vein Zelossi. Fine. Okay. This is just to see